and welcome to a very, very special edition of the Preacher Girl podcast. It is number 25. Can you believe it? I know it's been 25 weeks that we've had a podcast every single week for you. I'm so excited and so grateful to all of you who really watch us every week or listen in your earbuds. Also to my team that works so diligently and so hard to make sure that these podcasts are available to you every single week. Most of all, thank you, Abba, for the idea and for the courage and strength to get on camera and to do this week after week. It's not easy. It's not always the most fun thing, but you make it so worth it. All of you that take the time to comment, to like, and to let me know that the podcasts are helping you in whatever it is you're going through. Well, since it's the 25th edition, we have awesome giveaways, but also we have an incredible topic that I want to talk to you for a few minutes on. This episode is called How to Get Done Already.
Oh no, she didn't! Oh yes, she did!
I really didn't say what you think I said. Fanny was just trying to be funny. But it is called How to Get Stuff Done Already. So I want you to go back with me to 2009. It's winter. There's a foot of snow on the ground. It's an uphill pavement. And I'm lying down on my back watching snowflakes fall into my eyeballs at about 7:30 p.m. It's pitch dark in the Bronx of New York. I'm lying there in the snow, watching the snowflakes fall, tears falling down my eyes, and asking God, what am I doing in New York? Well, guess what? It was my first winter ever. I was coming home from work and I slipped and I fell, and thank God it was snow so I didn't hurt myself, but I just didn't have the strength in my body. I didn't have the will in my heart. I didn't even have the want to in my mind to get up off the snow. Plus I was wearing 4-inch heels. You try doing that in a snowstorm. And I was just letting the snowflakes fall into my eyeballs and asking God, did I hear you right when I came to New York? Did I miss the boat here? Did I think I heard you say come and plant a church, or did you really call me to do this? Because this is not what I felt I signed up for. That was the day I almost gave up. That was the day I thought to myself, I do not know what I've gotten myself into. I've bitten off way more than I'm able to chew. I'm in big trouble here. I wasn't even dressed appropriately for the season, far less for what God was gonna take me through there. But guess what? Here we are 10 years later. In 2019, I'm still here in New York, and God has blown my mind, exceeded my expectations, and the church that He planted here is better than anything I ever thought it could be. What happened? Something must have happened to cause me to go from I can't do this to let's get it done. And that's what this podcast is going to deal with. How to get stuff done already. I'm going to give you 3 time-tested, I got this down to a science, can't live without it tips that takes me from stasis, from not getting stuff done, all the way to getting it done and getting it done so very well. So if you're ready for that, let's go. So what is that big dream? What is that wish you have? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? The answer that you're trying to find? What is it that's in your spirit that you feel like God has put you here for, or you've always wanted to accomplish, or you literally just need to get done so you can put food on your table? What is it that you need to do that you're not doing? Unless you know what that thing is, unless you're aware and you have put a name to it, then you don't even know how to begin to pursue that. So I want you to grab a piece of paper and grab a pen and write that down right now, whatever it looks like, whether it is to plant a church or start a business or to write your book, or whatever it is that has been elusive to you and you've made excuses about. I need you to write that down somewhere, because there's something, not only the Bible which says write the vision and make it plain, but science has shown that there's cognitive proof that when you write something down with pen and paper, that your mind connects to it, and it becomes so much more a part of you, more so than if you type it on a keyboard. That's why I'm asking you to grab a pen, grab a piece of paper or your journal and write it down. Even if you wrote it already, even if you wrote it 60 times already, write it down again and put it down so you can look at it. What is it that you're trying to solve? What is it that you're trying to make work, or what is it that you're trying to get? Whatever that is, you need to look at it so that you know. In my case, 10 years ago, it was plant a church. I had no knowledge, I had no money, and I had no time to do any of those things since I was working a full-time job. My husband was in school. I had the only income, and I'm here in a city that I've never seen before, know nobody whatsoever, and being told by God that I'm called to plant a church. But I wrote it down. I have a vision board, but I put it down in paper and in pictures so that I could never forget in my heart and in my mind what it was I knew I was called to do. So what are the 3 things that helped me get from there to here? What are the 3 things that took all the roadblocks out of my way to make sure I knew that I was going to achieve what God said He sent me here for? The first thing is to change what you believe. Change what you believe. And now, by this I'm not saying to change that you believe in God or change that you believe in the Bible, and those things are not up for question. These things are absolutes and cannot be changed. But when I say change what you believe, I mean change what you believe about yourself. Most of us women in general suffer from some sort of insecurity issue, and there are different things that we blame for being insecure. You know, there are those of us who are insecure because we're chasing perfectionism. You're not going to achieve a perfectionism, and so the more you try to be what you see on magazines and on TV, on social media and all those things, the less good you're going to feel about yourself. In fact, you're going to feel worse every time you try to be perfect, because you're not called to that type of perfection. You're called to strive to a perfection that looks like Jesus Christ. The second thing that gives us feelings of inadequacy is social anxiety. Those of us who have disorders, or who are nervous in public, or who have trouble speaking to people, you feel insecure because you feel that nobody likes you, or you're not friendly enough, or you hate social environments. And then the third thing are those of us who have fears that stem from our past rejection, feelings of guilt, feelings of failure, things that happened when we were children. All of these things contribute to helping us be insecure people. But when I say change what you believe about yourself, I mean that you have to begin believing what God says about you. It's either you believe that God is real or He's not. It's either you believe that the Word is real or it's not, that God is able or He's not, that He called you or He didn't. Or let's stop there for a second and go back. I say every day when we do this podcast, if God calls you, no one can uncall you. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't believe that He has called you, then whether somebody else believes it or not is irrelevant. The first person that needs to believe that is you. It's me. I had to know in my heart that it didn't matter who said I wasn't qualified, or who said that I wasn't fit for this job, or who said that I wasn't educated enough, or the right color, or the right gender to be doing this. If God said this is what I was called to do, then I don't care what anybody else says. And that's what you need to get into your heart and into your mind. If God put this calling inside of you, and I believe He did. I believe every preacher girl, everybody listening to this right now, including you, who sent to earth on purpose. I believe the purpose existed before you existed, and you were perfect for the purpose. That's why He sent you here, because you, with your sets of qualifications and attitudes and skills and talents, are perfect to do exactly what God needed done in this hour, in this season. So right now, you change what you believe about you. Stop thinking that you're not good enough, because if God saw that you were good enough to do this, that's why He put you there. If there's a book in your heart, it's because God put all the things that needs to go between the covers inside of you. If there's a family that you need to raise, if there are sons and daughters that you need to mentor, whatever your ministry looks like, as long as you believe that God has called you to it, then it happens for you. If this wasn't written in the Bible, I wouldn't believe it myself. Because I mean, it sounds like pie in the sky. Believe it and it will happen. But do you know what the Bible says? You know Mark 11:24. For whatsoever you ask, believing, it'll be done. The believing is in there, and that's where most of us fall short. Girl, if I could give you any advice on this earth ever, it's believe in spite of everybody. Believe in spite of what it looks like. Even if it feels like it's impossible. Even if you're not telling anybody else you believe. You've got to keep that belief in you, because once you believe it, the Word of God says it's coming true for you. Not only that, your mind begins to imbibe and understand and process, and it becomes part of who you are. Some of us, in order to believe it, we need to just keep saying it until our mind gets a clue. So that's the first thing. Believe. Change your belief about what you believe about you. In a recent book by Marie Forleo, she gave an example of this that I thought was so great. A certain very famous surgeon did a clinical trial. It was a double-blind clinical trial, which is the best kind ever. But this is what he did. He had such a strong belief in that people got well or got ill depending on what they believed, that he did a clinical study that went like this. He did knee replacement surgery on a set of people, and then he did a fake knee replacement surgery on an equal number of people. So it was like a placebo surgery. So in one, they did the full thing. They cut it open, they replaced everything, they stitched it back together. And in the other set of people, they just did minor cuts on the knee, but they went through the whole process of anesthesiology and of getting prepped for surgery and all of that. And guess what the results showed? The results showed that for those who had the actual surgery, a third of them got relief from the pain after the surgery. But guess what the other results showed? The ones that had the fake surgery, a third of them had knee relief from pain, and in some cases better than the people who had the actual surgery, just because they believed they had this surgery done. Over and over, I know that's shocking, this has been proven over and over, that people who believe a thing, that's what manifests in your life. It's the truth. I've heard a lot of talk these days about people who are gluten allergic. Have you heard about it? I mean, we've been eating bread for 2,000 years and nobody was allergic to gluten, but now everybody, their cousin, their neighbor, and their sister-in-law is allergic to gluten, and they have the symptoms to prove it. Recently in China, they did another study where a bunch of boys, hundreds of boys who are severely allergic to a certain kind of grass, sort of like poison ivy, and they would get hives and just break out in the worst way. Well, half of them was just touched with normal grass, but they were told that it was that poisonous grass, and guess what happened? Absolutely hives and whelps and red marks. And it was regular grass, a harmless grass. And then the other half was touched with the poisonous grass, but told it was a harmless grass, and only one kid had the symptoms. What does that say? That it's all about what they were believing. Now, I'm not saying if you have a condition that you're supposed to believe your way out of that. Maybe, maybe not. That's not it. But it's just that many of us are in handicapped situations just because we believe the wrong thing. So we need to start changing what we believe about what we're capable of, what we're called to do, and what we can do today, starting now, if we will stop doing what I'm going to say in the second one. So the second thing, after change what you believe, that I want you to do is to commit to the work. I know you don't like it, but listen, commit to the work. Nothing ever got done without somebody doing something. The only thing that you can't change in this life is stuff that is put in there as immutable laws. You can't change gravity. That's gonna happen whether you like it, believe it, or not. But everything else that is not an immutable law of nature, science, and God, it is changeable. You can change that. So, but you have to get the work done. It's no good to say I'm going to do something and never actually get up and get it done. So how do you, I like to call them roadblocks, these next couple things that I'm going to tell you about that stops you from getting things done. And one of the things, my favorite really, and most of you are probably using it now, I like to call it, I already know that. That is a preacher's worst nightmare. When you get up to preach and you begin to read from the book of Samuel and you begin to read about David and Goliath, you see the looks. 90% of the church has that, I already know this story look. I already get this. And as a preacher, that can put up all kinds of roadblocks in front of you when God has given you a word. But by the time you're into the sin, when they realize, wait, I might know the story, but I didn't get this before now. But if you go into a situation with that, well, I already know that. I got that down. I don't need to listen to this podcast. I've heard this before. Then you miss out. You miss out because, honey, I've learned in 4 decades of living that I can learn something from a child. I was driving down the road with my nephew the other day. I've told this story a couple times, but we were looking at the moon, and he said to me, he said, Auntie, do you know that it would take 1 hour by car to get into space? And of course, I'm smarter than he is. He's only 6. And I said, no, we know. The space shuttle takes a long time to get into space. A car drives much slower than the space shuttle. So therefore, it would take much longer than an hour. He's like, no, it would take an hour for a car to drive into space. So I said, no, Noah. And instead of arguing with him, because he's a little bit of a science nerd, I Googled it. And wouldn't you know it, it would take 1 hour. Yes, for a car going 70 kilometers an hour to break into what science considers space. He was right. I was humbled. And my 6-year-old nephew looked at me and said, I was right, wasn't I? I was like, be quiet. What's the point? That day, I learned something from a 6-year-old that I thought I already knew. That means never approach something, even this podcast, even if you know all this stuff, on some level, ask yourself, what can I glean today? It's a lesson we learned from Ruth, who picked up what was left off sometimes by the people who were getting the big bundles. She picked up small things and turned into the owner of the field. Do you understand what God is saying? If you have that attitude that says, God, what are you trying to teach me today? What can I learn from this thing that I thought I knew, that I could know better? And when you demolish that attitude of, oh, I already know that, then you give God a chance to come in and teach you things in such a brand new and exciting way that it could change your life and change your outlook. I'm telling you, I live that way. Everywhere I go, even if it's horrible and I don't want to be there, I'm asking God, what are you showing me here that I don't already know? A second roadblock that I see people do all the time is they make a lot of excuses. Right? So the 3 most popular ones, I wrote them down. I have no time, I have no money, and I have no knowledge. I have no time, I'm so busy. I have no money, we all know what that feels like. And I don't know how. Those 3 excuses are all expendable. None of them are valued. Those of us who are very busy and have no time, when we get to number 3, you'll see how we'll change that in a minute. The no knowledge one, even that can't stand a chance. Unless you're trying to fly a rocket to the moon tomorrow, and even that, you can start studying for that right now. There is a wealth of knowledge and information, and hopefully your goals can be broken down into something that you can start doing today. Today. Get the work done today, and don't put it off for tomorrow. Procrastination is a dream killer. You'll never get it done. You must start today. That is, I don't even know. I tell you all the time, I was driving to the church and the Lord said to me, start a podcast, and we started it today. And I'm not saying that you got to go 0 to 90 in 2 seconds, but I'm saying you've got to make an effort in the right direction starting now. And what about that no money thing? I mean, how do you overcome that? I've seen a lot of people use money as an excuse to not pursue something, but I've learned something the hard way. If you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to get it. It's the truth. If you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to get it. And if what you want is going to cost money, if it's that important and valuable to you, you will find a way to get it. So that's number 2. Commit to the work. Once you know what it is you've got to do, honey, start now. And that doesn't mean think about it. That means get up and move. Get up and put a sign on it. If you want to sell it, put a sign on it. If you want to make it, start accumulating your ingredients. If you want to do it, start studying for it. Don't waste your most valuable resource, and that's my number 3 tip. The number 3 one is account for your time, because time is a treasure. So we all know the late great Steve Jobs, right? When the iPad was first introduced, one reporter said, your kids must love the iPads. And you know what he said? He said, they haven't touched it. We won't let them. Isn't it crazy that he didn't let his kids use the iPad? And then he said they have very limited tech usage because we know the dangers of technology. Let that sink in for a while. While we let our kids be babysat by screens, the man who is responsible for mass producing it didn't let his kids touch them. Isn't that crazy? Why? Because the dangers about screens had nothing to do with your eyesight. You know, when you used to sit up close to your mom, the TV, and your mom used to say you'll go blind if you sit that close, or your eyes will get glued or something, cross-eyed, or I don't know. They used to make all kinds of excuses why we couldn't sit so close up to the television. Well, turns out those are not even the dangers of the screens. But the screens and social media are the biggest thieves of time, of joy, of sanity, of peace that our modern day generation has. You all know about the fear of missing out. There are real diagnoses right now about depression based on social media. Do you know that? Because what happens, there is a new disease that was diagnosed because every time you get a like, an email, or a guest or a visitor or whatever it is you get on social media, whatever people do, like or approve or thumbs up or whatever, all of those things causes a burst of dopamine to happen in your body. I talk about dopamine a lot, don't I? And dopamine is it's a drug, and your body gets used to that so much that you must get that hit and you become addicted. It's a social media addict. You have to check your photos. You have to check who's on doing what. And I mean, the repercussions are crazy. That's just one of the things. Social media addiction is a real and preventable disease. But not only that, there are all kinds of self-esteem issues that come up from comparisons and seeing other people, and depression that comes from seeing people live lives that you can't live, and unfair descriptions of yourself, and all of those things that are leading to all kinds of social and mental diseases right now. But today we are not even talking about those evils of social media, and we're talking about how they steal your time. The fact of the matter is, we were all given 24 hours. You were given 24 hours. Oprah Winfrey's given 24 hours. Donald Trump's given 24 hours. TD Jakes is given 24 hours. I'm given 24 hours. The people who have achieved great things in life were not given more time than you were. You're allotted the same amount. What you do with it, however, is very different. If you sleep 12 of it away, you've wasted a whole bunch of an investment that God has given to you to make good use of. And the time you have is not unlimited. If you were to check your day, your 24-hour day, and treat it like the treasure that it is, where every 5-minute period, or every 20-minute, or every 15-minute period was valuable to you, and you weren't okay by wasting it on YouTube, or Pinteresting it into oblivion, or Instagramming it into nonsensical brain matter that you will never use in your life. Just think of all the time you would have, all the time you're saying you don't have, maybe you actually do have, but we're spending it behind a screen of some sort, or doing things that will add no value to our lives or get us any closer to our dreams. So this is my third thing. Treat your time as a valuable commodity. Don't waste it. Don't let it just go down the drain and get flushed down, because once it's gone, you do not get it back. Even your commute. Some of us have long commutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. How are you spending it? Jam into your favorite tunes? There's nothing wrong if that's your R&R time, if that's your worship time, then use it wisely. But don't make it time that you waste. It's valuable. It's important, and it could push you in the direction of getting stuff done. It is your most valuable commodity. It is the thing that God has given to you in good measure, but only for a limited time. So you need to get out of that feedback loop. The feedback loop is that thing where you need somebody to affirm you in order to feel that dopamine spike that you get from seeing likes on Facebook. You know, when you hit your first 100 likes and you're like, what? That feeling. It leads to insecurities and you needing people always to tell you they like you, or you're good looking, or your clothes are nice today, or your hair looks fantastic. And I'm telling you, that is a sucker well of despair. Don't even get caught in that thing right now. So I told you it's our 25th episode. I'm so excited. I feel like God will allow Preacher Girl to do things that I can't even imagine. I believe that in my spirit, that one day there'll be so many thousands of us girls preaching the gospel and sharing the gifts that God has put in our spirits. And this is just the silver episode. It's 25, but because it is, I want to do something extra special. So our freebie today, our giveaway, it's not our freebie, it's our giveaway. One of you are going to have our special edition leather PG bracelet. I know sometimes you're in jeans and a t-shirt and you don't want to have your pretty neck. I know, I love mine. I wear mine all the time. But if you wanted something that's a more casual alternative, we have this one. Isn't it cute? I know, I love it. It has the PG cabochon. It has the little PG pendant right there on it. And it's a braided leather bracelet. And one of you are going to win it. It's limited edition. I know you haven't seen it before because we really haven't sold it. But I'm going to give one of these away on our 25th episode for the lucky PG girl that's randomly chosen. How do you get chosen? Well, as usual, please invite somebody to the community. And let's do it that way. If you bring a friend into the community that says so-and-so invited me, then we will enter your name in the drawing for the PG Girl leather braided bracelet. And that would be yours this episode. I also want to remind you that my revised edition of Song of the Shulamite, Secrets of an Irresistible Woman, that's a book I wrote a long time ago, and I revised it for republishing. It's an amazing book, if I do say so myself, and it teaches every woman how to be irresistible in your own right and in your own sphere, just like the Shulamite from the Songs of Solomon. Well, it's going to be re-released before the end of the year, and if you pre-order the book on my website, pastorsharo.com, if you pre-order the book, you will get from that ticket, save the receipt, because that's going to give you your free ticket to an 8-episode online webinar just for you, teaching you tips, tricks, strategies about being irresistible. And it's only open 100% for people who pre-order the book, and it will be free for you. And so you want to save your ticket, and that will be up on the website hopefully this week. All right, so here we have it, how to get stuff done starting now. I hope this podcast has blessed you. As usual, if you liked it, please click like, please click share. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, do so and share it on your Facebook. And as usual, I love you. God bless you, and remember, once God has called you, no one can uncall you.